Welcome to the podcast. We do recover with Jared Miller, your host.
And I'm Dr. Terry Sellers, your co-host.
This is a podcast about recovery from addiction.
We want to talk about what successful recovery can look like.
Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center, Rise Up Subs, and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn.
Skibbity!
Woo! What in the world is going on here? So I found a lost Dr. Sellers.
What?
He's in studio today. It's been since March 8th.
That is unbelievable to me.
May 19th is when last time you were in studio. March 8th since the last time we both sat down and had a conversation. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I look forward to just,
I'm confused a little. How was I in studio May 19th, but we didn't have a conversation?
Well, we had Anthony Provenza.
Oh, yeah.
Drug testing.
So we
2.
didn't really have a...
So it wasn't like a topic.
All right, gotcha.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. So I look forward to kind of catching up with you.
Don't ask me if I remember something from May. I don't remember breakfast this morning, so I'm old.
Yeah. Denovan?
Sean Denovan.
Are you playing nice today, Denovan?
Of course. I have a 3 skibbity quota. That's 2 skibbity.
You're 66.6% of the way done with your skivvities.
So apparently skibbity toilet's a thing.
I don't know what it even
We're
means.
all just learning about this.
I'm old. I don't even
right
know
now.
what it means.
Denovan, educate us.
I don't know skibbity. I know muling, but I don't know skibbity.
That's your 4th one.
Sorry.
You went over your quota. We're going to get canceled now.
No. I don't know skibbity. I know that it's there, but I also know that I don't want to put the effort into finding out what it is. It has something to do with a man in a toilet, and that's about it. And I know that there's a Michael Bay movie in the works with it.
Wow.
That one is true.
Fascinating.
Really?
Yeah.
Michael Bay?
Michael Bay's going to make a skibbity
Stuff's blowing
toilet.
up?
Well, yeah.
Isn't he just famous for blowing up stuff?
The toilet transforms into a man. I don't know.
Oh, my gosh.
This episode's off to a great
He's an
start.
Autobol or deceptive.
Great start.
Somebody blew up in the toilet.
Okay, well.
All right, well, let's bring it back down to reality.
So this is a podcast about recovery from addiction.
It is.
Today
That's
we're
correct.
going to have just some conversations about
Yeah, it's been
what
so long since
our
I've been in
recoveries
studio.
look like.
Sure.
Yeah, I love it. Play a
Sure.
little catch up, maybe talk a little sports.
Yeah.
However, on the note of it's a podcast about recovery,
Sure.
if you or your loved one is struggling with addiction,
Sure.
check out our sponsors. Steps Recovery Centers sponsors this podcast. They're amazing. They have detox facilities, residential facilities, outpatient facilities, sober living, like Dr. Sellers has said, from start to finish. They've got all the stuff that you or a loved one would need. And I feel like pretty good staff. So quick little story. Oh, yeah. Visit their website or give them a phone call, 801-800-8142.
Or stepsrc.com.
Thanks, Doc.
You're welcome.
Oh, so this was not planned, right? But I show up to work on Halloween, and I'm like, I'm dressed up, right? Because I'm a goofy guy.
Sure, you're kind of a Halloween fan too.
Yeah, so I'm rocking the Where's Waldo outfit,
Yeah,
right?
saw that.
Walk right to my office. I pass Shell, one of our other therapists.
Right.
She's a cat, right? Darren comes out of his office. He's a unicorn.
Wait, she's a cat, like she identifies as a cat now, or she's just a cat for Halloween?
I think it was just for Halloween.
Okay.
But it
All
was
right,
just
gotcha.
rad. It's just cool. I work with some pretty
That's
cool
fun.
people there at Steps.
that's fun.
Yeah, it was a good time, man.
Yeah, good.
How was your Halloween?
Boring. I worked up until about 5, and then I went home and I handed out candy bars. That's really all I did.
You do the full-size candy bars at your house?
Yeah, we do.
That's
For
rad.
sure. I demand it. My wife wants to get small stuff, and I want to get the king-size giant candy bars.
Your house is the house that the kids just go home and then change into a different outfit and come back 3 or 4 times?
Well, I don't know about that, but yeah, we do give
What
out.
street is this? I'm gonna come trick or treating there next
right?
year. The full candy, like the king size or like the regular size?
This year we gave out regular size because we had to compromise. I want to give out king size, and my wife wants to give out mini bars. And
Dude, get
So we got
that man, be a
regular size.
baller. You need to get those like $5
I
Kit
used-
Kats that are like 6 feet long.
I used to get
Surprise a kid every once in a while. Here you go.
We used to get those. We also used to have a million trick-or-treaters back when I lived in my old neighborhood, which was, a bunch of 8,000 and 10,000 square foot homes. And in a cul-de-sac, people would just show up and offload like
Yeah.
like school buses.
A van
would pull
full of
up
kids.
yeah, it was crazy.
It's the opposite of an abduction scene. A van pulls out and just a whole caravan of
Yeah.
kids pile out.
It's in fact where my grandkids went trick-or-treating, as they went back to my old neighborhood and went trick-or-treating
that's
there,
cool.
because
I feel like
many people have king-size candy bars there.
I feel like trick or treating is a lost art,
A little bit.
right? Like now it's the trunk or treat. A lot of places,
A lot
are
of
doing-
trunk-or-treats.
especially here in Utah. Like
Yeah,
they do the war trunk or treats or community trunk or treats.
right.
I remember when I was a kid, you'd go and see how fast you could fill up a bag, and then run home and get a different bag and hit a different neighborhood.
Sure.
Yeah, buddy.
Yep.
Maybe that's why I have some false teeth. Is all
I
that
had
sugar that I
oh, man, my teeth are all falling out.
Donovan, did you do anything fun for Halloween, man?
I turned on a scary movie and fell asleep after 5 minutes.
God, you guys.
Well, wasn't that scary then, was it?
No, and I even paid $30 to watch it.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, like
$30.
the Alien Romulus. It's still in theaters, and I'm like,
Okay.
I want to see it, but I don't want to go. So I paid the $30 to buy it, to watch it at home on Amazon, and then
you watched 5 minutes of it.
I fell asleep.
That checks out.
That's not bad. That's only $6 a minute.
But I bought it so I can watch it anytime I want to, which will be never.
Yeah, there's that. You're not. Yeah, exactly. Halloween's over. You're not watching it next week.
Nope.
For sure. I thought about just giving out some supplements. Episode 153, part 1's also sponsored by
Rise Up Subs.
Supplements. Go ahead, Doc.
Oh, I can't do this promo. You can do that. I don't know how.
Rise Up
I
Subs
don't
is a
know.
nootropic supplement line aimed at optimizing brain function and supporting mental health. They have two powerful blends. The first one is Mindful Mood, helps decrease anxiety and enhance mood. The next is Mind Shift, helps increase focus and optimize brain function. Check them out today. Listen, if you like the podcast, help us by sponsoring or supporting our sponsors. Go to riseupsups.com. That's RISEUPS.com. We even had some theme music in that one.
It's been a minute since I've been in studio, and I forgot to turn my ringer off.
Okay,
My
so
fault.
we kind of took a break there for a minute. Like I said, March 8th was the last time we sat down and had a conversation.
Sure.
Last time, but you haven't been in studio since May 19th, so we're going to get to what you've been up to. But I was pretty surprised, and I'm not typically like a geek like this. Oh, that's a lie. So I looked up the analytics, and we got some listeners in some pretty cool places. So I just kind of wanted to give a shout out. First of all, Brazil. We're getting downloads in Brazil,
Wow.
Canada.
Wow.
Shout out to Bangladesh, Germany, Russia, right?
Really?
Little old podcast in St.
People
George,
listening
Utah.
to us in Bangladesh, huh?
And then usually Utah's primarily our number one downloads, right?
Sure.
Like it'll take up 60, sometimes 70% of our downloads.
Right.
Delaware they're almost beating out Utah last month.
What?
Just out of the shout
think-
out to our listeners in
I
Delaware.
think Joe
What's up,
I think Joe
guys?
Biden and all of his friends are listening.
in Delaware.
Isn't Joe Biden? I think Joe Biden's from Delaware.
I don't know.
He is.
I don't know.
I think he's originally from Delaware.
Is Trump from Texas? Because they're the next most downloads.
Trump is
I know
not
he's
from
New York.
Texas. Trump is from New York.
So shout out to our listeners in Delaware, Texas, Colorado, Iowa, California, Florida. Yeah, we appreciate you guys listening. We're seeing you pop up on the analytics. So
Cool.
hope you guys are enjoying the podcast.
Cool. Yeah. If you ever have any suggestions that you want us to talk about for topics or even guests or anything, hit us up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of took a little break there for a while, and it made I feel like I interview people a little bit different, and I have some different ideas that maybe we'll get into. But yeah, I love the topic stuff.
I'll bet it goes smoother when I'm not here, because I always sidetrack the interviews.
Some of that's part of the fun, though.
Yeah, I try to make the first part of the story last as long as possible.
Tell us when you
Oh,
were 8
okay.
years
It's a
old.
podcast about recovery, and we get to the recovery part in the last 3 minutes of the podcast. Oh, and then I got sober. Okay, see ya. It's been nice talking to you this week.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
that's how it goes.
What have you been up to?
Well, let's see. In life, since I was last year, I had a sober birthday. I've actually had another belly button birthday too.
Man, birthdays.
I'm
all
65 years old. That's the time.
Are you
when
really?
I'm 65 years old.
Really?
and yeah.
Oh.
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, I would have guessed city miles on that. So
But life's good. I'm feeling good. Not really worried about retiring anytime soon. I don't need to. I don't work that hard to begin with.
You
but,
just like look over files and give it the thumbs up.
I make fun of people is what I do for a living. No, that's not true. But I've been working on some projects at work. Started a company that we've developed an online course, kind of really intended to help people that need help with substance abuse, but that really aren't going to go to inpatient rehab.
Give me like an idea. Why would somebody not go to inpatient rehab?
Well, let's say no one wants to go to rehab, right? I mean,
Solid point.
You got to get hit upside the head with a 2x4 before you finally realize it's time to go. But
Unfortunately.
we're really looking at people who are in jobs such as CEOs of companies or people who own their own companies who feel like they can't leave work for an extended period of time to go to rehab. That's really kind of our target audience. We're not trying to take people from rehabs necessarily because we think rehab's still important. But we're trying to take people that need it that might not go and see if we can do something along the lines of a rehab while they remain working in their jobs. And so we've developed this. It's a course. It's 29 videos. It's 6 months long. We're with them for all 6 months. They have a weekly visit with a physician, which is, of course, me, and they have a weekly coaching call with a coach, and then they have at least once a week, and when we get more people enrolled, we'll open up more possibilities, but at least one community meeting a week, which will be sort of an AA-style meeting. It'll be a little different than AA for sure, but it'll be a
Group therapy, basically.
Yeah, it'll be a group therapy meeting sort of, but it'll all be by Zoom. As you're probably aware, lots of AA meetings are done by Zoom these days. So, it'll be along those lines. And then they watch 2 videos a week, and the videos we broke it down into sort of 3 modules, and one of the modules is physical, and one is emotional, and one is spiritual. And each module lasts 2 months long, 2 videos a week, and with each video there are action items that we want them to do that we will be discussing in the coaching call, whether, how they did with those assignments and that sort of thing.
So there is some accountability.
A lot of accountability, hopefully. And I think it's got real potential. We haven't really sold one yet, but that's because we barely launched ads like last week saying we even have a program. So
it's going to blow up now. You're talking about it on the podcast.
I don't know if it'll blow up, but I think we have a chance of helping a few people, and if we do, that'll be great.
So how does somebody so somebody's interested.
Yeah.
Or somebody has a loved one that wants to check it out.
So we have a couple of ways to get to us for sure. We do have a web page. The company, the main company is doing a number of different things, not just this course. The main company is called Detox One Global. The one is the digit, the number 1, so it's DETOX number 1 global.com.
Nice.
That's our website. And then we have Instagram account, we have a Facebook page, and you can contact us through those. We'll be putting out some ads for various people that they can see on both Facebook and Instagram, maybe even LinkedIn.
You got to do all that these days, right? You have to have social media accounts. The website's just you absolutely have to have that.
You got to have a website, but people don't really
stuff.
contact you as often through your website anymore.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what you guys do with that.
It's going to be cool, I think. And
Detox One's been around for a while, though, right?
Yeah. So Detox One, I started with a previous partner of mine, Dr. Kristen Brown, and we used to really all that did was private detoxes, and I've done a number of them, and we've had a lot of fun with it, and met some really cool people and stuff. And when Dr. Brown got her doctorate, then she took a full-time job and didn't really want to do the detox thing anymore. And so I have a different partner these days, although we just did a private detox last week with a guy, and I was in Florida. So my old partner, Dr. Brown, came and saw him while I was in Florida. So she kind of came back and made a little money. But anyway, it's interesting. I don't know.
That's cool.
I don't know if we may never sell one of them. but we might sell 1,000 of
it's,
them too.
It's exciting.
Right.
Yeah.
It's fun for me. The plan is that's going to replace maybe all of my other jobs, and I will retire from everything but that.
So long term, you're kind of looking at this as just you're riding into the
Yep.
sunset.
This is a
job.
bit of I mean, this
Okay.
is this is a thing that'll require. It required a whole bunch of work setting it up, but once we get it up and running, it will sort of run itself, and I'll have a few things to do every week, but not a ton of stuff. So
Nice.
it'll be that.
Talk to me about your golf game. We're golfing tomorrow.
My golf game is
Ledges.
My golf game is fantastic.
18 holes.
My golf game's never been better.
10-10. I'm gonna beat you tomorrow.
You're almost assuredly not going to beat
I'm
me
gonna
tomorrow.
be- I've been
Unless you
practicing a
Unless
lot.
you take the club and swing it at my head, that's the only way you'll beat me. I'm sorry. I've been playing really good. The other thing is, I just got back from Florida. I was in Florida all of last week. BYU played the University of Central Florida, and me and a couple of buddies went out to that game.
I said I wanted to talk about golf, not football. There's
Well,
a big reason for that.
I'm getting there. I'm just telling you why I was in Florida to watch my undefeated Cougars. Oh wait,
I knew he was
are
gonna
they
lay it on
8-0?
thick.
Yes, they are. But we went down for that.
Yep.
But I played golf in Florida, and we played a really nice course. I have a buddy that's down there on a mission. Apparently, on his mission, he can play golf. So we went and played. We went and played golf. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Waldorf Astoria on the property, the Disney property, and that course was unbelievably lovely. Yeah.
I like golf. I like Florida.
Well, let's go. Problem is,
Does
you'd
the
have-
ball fly the same in Florida?
No, it doesn't fly as far.
Because it's
Not humidity, sea level.
yeah.
a
It's
sea
not the
level thing.
humidity.
No, it's a sea level thing for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know if humidity has any. It might have a little bit, but most of it's based on the sea level and the altitude that we're at here.
Crazy.
We're actually not at much altitude here, but up where I am, we're at altitude.
So I'm just excited for tomorrow because if truth be told, you don't like golfing with me because I'm
love
kind of
golfing with you.
I'm
Stop
kind of
it.
an angry golfer, and it's okay, right? Like
That's totally
I
fine with
get
me. You're angry because I'm beating the crap out
I
of you.
get pissed when I hit shots that I shouldn't normally hit. But
Okay,
since
so
the
here's
last time
here's
we
the
were,
realization, though. Remember this.
Okay, let's get it.
Because when I was early in my golfing career, I didn't start till I was in my 30s. I didn't play golf as
that's
a kid.
me too, man.
Right. Early on, I would throw clubs. Like I lost an 8-iron up in a tree once because I threw it and it got stuck up there. And then somebody said to me, "What are you doing? You're not good enough to be a pro. Therefore, you're not good enough to throw a club. Like, stop it." And that kind of hit me. And I'm like, "You're right. I'm not that good a golfer. So why am I getting so mad when I hit a crappy shot? That's what
Yeah.
bad golfers do, right?" And so I was able to calm down and be a lot more zen about it. And I don't like it when I hit a bad shot these days, but I don't really lose my cool like I used to.
Yeah, I've never thrown a club. I
Good
have.
for you. You're way more controlled already than I was, so you're off to a good start.
Now that you say that, I have on a morning par 3. I hit a ball and it went right into the water, and I buried. I'm pretty
club
sure
in
it was
the
a
ground?
9-iron
In the ground?
in the ground.
Yeah, sure.
Pulling it out was like Excalibur coming out of the stone because it was almost all the way up to the handle. They had overseeded, you know what I mean? So the ground was just like wet, just so soft.
That's nice. Did you have
But
to
I was-
call like one of the knights of the round table to pull that thing out for you?
It felt like that kind of a moment. It felt like
That's funny.
I always play with a group of guys on Friday,
Okay.
right? It's a group of guys in recovery, right? If
That's fun.
anybody ever goes to my personal Facebook page, you kind of know who I'm talking about. But one of the guys, Tim, and he's kind of hit and miss, but he's there a lot. I was golfing with him, and he's such a cool, calm cat. Like
Or
I was
the podcast friend Tim Hayes.
yeah,
Yeah,
Tim.
Tim's
yeah.
been on the podcast.
Yeah, Tim's been on the podcast. And just softly, gently, like a good dude. I was frustrated. He could tell I was frustrated. He came up, put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, "Listen, we both paid $40 to be out here for 2 hours. You can be as pissed off as you want, or you can have a good time. The choice is yours."
There you go.
And I was
It's a
like,
good zen. That's a good zen approach. It's true.
he's
though.
right.
It's
I
true,
paid
though,
money to
right?
come out here for 2 hours. Like, yeah.
We need to just enjoy the times we hit good shots and realize that maybe at this point in either of our golfing lives, we're not going to hit every shot really great.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
We're all even. I've been playing for much longer than you have, and I still hit crappy, like just dumb shots.
So here's this is like our life. This is our life in recovery, right? So this is equivalent to some recovery stuff. And okay, here's me on a golf course. Get up to the tee, pull out my driver, right?
Okay.
Depending on how the driver goes, and I need to do some mental work around this because if I hit a bad drive, the rest of the hole I'm frustrated, I'm tense, I'm tight, I'm over squeezing my grip, right? I'm not even like taking time to like line up a direction to hit it into. I'm not going through my little waggle and my pre-hit warm-up thing. However, if I get up to the tee box and I hit it and it's a good drive, I'll typically either par or bogey the hole, right? When I get my double and triple bogeys is when I have terrible drives. Yeah. That's what I struggle with in the mental game of golf. What about you? What do you struggle with in the mental game of golf?
Slowing down a little bit, like taking the time to picture what I want to do. Sometimes I'll just get up there and hit it and not spend any real time focusing on what I actually want to have happen.
Okay.
So when I do that, sometimes it doesn't turn out that well.
Yeah.
But when I really focus on exactly what I want to be doing, and I can really get into if I could just keep my mind clear for 4 seconds.
Okay.
If you have never golfed, you would not believe how difficult it is to keep your mind clear for 4 seconds, particularly minds like mine. It's always kind of going, and it's not always going about golf either. But if I'm playing golf and I have I take my backswing and I got 7 things I'm thinking about, there's no chance that shot's going to be any good.
Yeah.
I got to think of one thing. If it's a short shot, I just got to drop the club on the back of the ball, and that's all I think about.
Yeah.
And if it's a drive, I got to actually just think about that much of the swing right there. Like if the tee is right in the middle, I got to think about the 6 inches before that and the 6 inches after that, and the rest of the swing's fine. Like,
we're going to talk about how
focus
tomorrow
on that.
goes. I'm excited.
Okay,
I've
good.
been playing quite a bit, so I'm not quite as terrible.
You
as the
sent me a
last time we
video
played.
of a swing that was nice and slow. Like,
Oh yeah.
that's
Slow
how
and
you hit the
smooth.
ball right down the middle. You're strong enough that you don't need to like swing super hard and try to cream it. And frankly, even me, the harder I swing, the worse the shot is.
Is that what you meant
And
by all the times you've said to me, I dare you to try not to hit it hard?
Maybe?
I've left you 2.5 minutes to talk about your Cougars. So I'm a
the
little.
Cougars are 8-0.
So this week we have the University of Utah playing Brigham Young University.
That's this coming week. Like
And-
it's a week from tomorrow.
For those of you listening out of the state of Utah, it's a huge rivalry.
It's a big deal. It's almost impossible to describe, right? How
He-
much emotion in this state there is. And people say, "Oh, Ohio State, Michigan." Okay, I get it. That's a big deal, but this thing's big. In
for
Utah,
us,
it's
for
big.
our reality. Yeah.
Yeah.
For people that live in Utah, it's as big as it gets.
Sports Illustrated once upon a time named this the number 2 rivalry in the United States of America.
What do they call it? They call it the
Holy
Holy
War.
War. Yeah.
People all the time. I've seen some stuff on social media recently about why do you call it a holy war? Only one of the schools is a religious school, and so they don't understand. And I'm like, well, that's probably why,
Yeah.
because the other school has a reputation of, even though the other school is populated by a bunch of people of the same religion, the school itself has a bit of an anti-religious slant to it.
Yeah, it's known as a party school.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Which BYU is absolutely known as one of the worst party schools in America.
So here's the thing is typically this is lopsided because BYU this year is undefeated, as you've said like 12 times now.
Are they undefeated? I think that might be 8.
Loves
They've
rubbing
been
it
playing
in.
high schools, right?
Yeah, for
Okay,
sure.
just checking.
They're about to play a high school this week, too.
That's what I thought so.
Oh, and the Utes are 4-4.
Right. Playing the same high schools, by the way.
Rough. I have a weird feeling that the U's they're gonna take it to BYU.
Oh, for sure they're going to come out and play. Like, the players want to win this game.
This is if you
We're going
think
to see
about
Utah's best, for sure. And Utah's best is really good.
if you think about it,
You got 30 seconds.
the coaches that are hyping this thing are telling their players, this is your bowl game.
Yeah.
For the University of Utah, this weekend is basically their bowl game because if they lose it, they're for sure out of bowl contention.
Sure. The good news is BYU's coaches aren't telling them that. They aren't. This is
Right.
They're telling them this
Any
is
other
just
game.
another game.
Right.
Right. And so emotions can help and emotions can hurt. We'll see.
This has been fun.
Yeah.
This has been fun. We're going to be back after this quick little mention from our sponsors, Steps Recovery Centers.
You are listening to We Do Recover with Jared Miller and co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers. We'll be right back after this short break with more of We Do Recover with Jared Miller. Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center, Rise Up Subs in the St. George Hilton Garden Inn.
If you or your loved one is trapped in the cycle of addiction, there is a way out. At Steps Recovery Centers in Utah, we believe in second chances and new beginnings. Our evidence-based treatments, compassionate staff, and supportive community guide you on the path to recovery. It's time to reclaim your life. Take the first steps towards freedom, resilience, and a brighter tomorrow. Reach out to Steps Recovery Centers today. Recovery starts with you, and with Steps, there is always hope. Call us or visit our website to learn more.
We welcome you back to We Do Recover with Jared Miller, co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers. Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center, Rise Up Subs in the St. George Hilton Garden Inn. And now with part 2 of our podcast, Jared Miller and Dr. Terry Sellers.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Part 2, We Do Recover with Jared Miller. I'm Dr. Terry Sellers, co-host Jared Miller.
I'm here, baby. That's
in
us.
studio together, which has been a while since we've done this. But before we get off on
Another
some
tangent?
more content and a bunch more tangents, part 2 is sponsored by the Hilton Garden Inn. It's always sunny and bright at the Hilton Garden Inn. If you happen to be traveling through southern Utah, give them a quick Google search. Just type in Hilton Garden Inn. Hilton Garden Inn has been around for quite a while now, and they do a really great job of treating their people really well. The facilities are great. The rooms are really large, which is seems to be a trend in hotels these days that rooms are getting smaller and smaller, and the Hilton
true.
Garden Inn's rooms are not small. They're big. But the hot tub's great, and food's good, and the customer service is outstanding. So if you're down this way, give them a shot at your business.
Absolutely.
Hilton Garden Inn. They'll treat you right.
You know, you don't appreciate a good hotel until you stayed at a bad one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So Mandy and I got this story. Mandy and I are going up. Her family lives in northern Utah, right? So the plan is we're going to drive up. We're going to stop in Salt Lake. And then the next night we're going to go up to Logan. So we stopped in Salt Lake and we booked I don't know if I should say the name of it, but it was a reputable.
Okay.
It was a reputable, right? Like a big chain hotel. And so we thought, yeah, no problem, right? It was like in the Murray area. We get there, and I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure, like I could have gotten any drug I wanted in that hotel. It was there was holes in the floor where it looked like burn marks had been.
Oh, jeez.
There were people that were screaming in rooms as we're like walking in. I didn't.
Really?
We brought our clubs because we went up and played up in Logan. We played the course up there, and I didn't even feel comfortable leaving our clubs like in the car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was so.
That's not cool.
That wouldn't happen at the
Not at the Hilton Garden Inn.
No,
No, sir.
absolutely
You
not.
could leave your clubs outside your room if you wanted. Oh, you got to see my new golf bag. Holy mackerel.
I got new everything, man.
I got it. Did you? We'll
Yeah.
have to check out what we got.
I have new clubs, new driver, new golf bag. I'm looking at some wedges right now, so maybe we'll talk about that when we get a minute.
Yeah.
I have
sure.
I have a dilemma. I've had this week-long dilemma on wedges.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll give you a wedgie tomorrow. How about that? No? All right.
The Holy War. I think we left off on the
back
Holy
just
War.
for a second on our respective colleges.
Can I put some context in this?
Please.
For people that haven't listened to all the past episodes, Dr. Sellers is a huge BYU fan.
Correct.
And I am a huge Utes fan. And that is,
Both correct.
Yeah. Like so much so in the past we've gone to these games together before,
Sure.
right?
Sure. Had a good
All
time.
right. Yep. There we go.
Yeah.
Background done.
Yeah. Well, if you're not living around here, more background. The series is for sure in Utah's favor overall, but particularly over the last decade and a half, Utah won nine games in a row against BYU, which is not all that typical of the series, but it is recently. Utah's been in a large conference, the Pac-12, and BYU was independent for a long time, and the money difference showed, the recruiting difference showed, and Utah's for the last decade and a half has definitely had better athletes.
Dominated.
And has really, I mean, they won 9 in a row, and a couple of those games they just blew us out, but most of those games were one-score games. There were very few of those games that were anything greater than 7 points apart, but they won 9 in a row. BYU won the last one.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago?
Three years ago now. So it's been a while since we played because we weren't in the same conference. But BYU won the last one, so we snapped that horrifying streak that everyone keeps shoving in my face as if history started the day that Utah beat BYU, first game in that streak. But even right now, BYU's in a conference and Utah's in the same conference now, right?
So it's going to be an every year thing.
Utah still has, at this point, better athletes. I mean, if you look at the ratings of their athletes, it's still ahead of what the ratings of BYU athletes are. I'm not saying we don't have good athletes. I'm saying Utah's athletes just tend to be slightly higher rated than BYU's athletes at this point. Right?
I would agree with that. The only caveat I would add is BYU has a lot of athletes that go on LDS missions.
Sure.
So they come back and they're older, more mature, a little bit more grown up.
We do have an older team than most teams in the U.S.
Sometimes it's literally men amongst boys.
It's older. The only problem is there's always been this long debate as to whether leaving for 2 years
helps or hurts.
Being 2 years older for sure helps maturity, but it may not help athleticism at all because they're not out there training for football. They're out there walking around and knocking on people's doors and having discussions, not lifting weights and running. And so
no way, dude. Like the quarterbacks are out there throwing Book of Mormons on people's doorsteps, right? Like this one's 20 yards, hit that, bro, right? And the centers are back in their rooms, snapping.
I don't think
you
that's
don't think
what
that's.
Happens, no.
I think
I'm sure that's not what happens.
I think there's a conspiracy there. I think they train the entire time.
They send them away to an elite camp,
yeah.
and they just for 2 years they just focus completely on football. No, that's not what happens. But anyway.
I'm excited.
Well, okay, so this is going to be fun, and it's probably going to be a close game because it usually is. But I wanted to continue along that vein. My school has, I don't know what's going on, this NIL thing, right, which has completely changed college athletics, completely changed college athletics.
I would argue that it has ruined college athletics, and I think it's
I
going
have to chime in on this one here.
Let me finish. I think it's going to ruin some young men's lives.
Oh. Okay.
Most of my experience here at Utah Tech, a lot of the students don't know how to use the NIL to their benefit. What I do sometimes here at the radio station is I ask the football team to sign a football so I can give it to somebody, like one of our sponsors for the games,
for sure.
Or the basketballs. So when they did the NIL, they're like, well, the only way to do that is to get every single player to sign a contract saying that they are signing a football that they may or may not receive monetary value from later in the future. For example, what if somebody wins the Heisman Trophy and that football becomes super popular and super expensive? Well, they're not going to see it. I'm like, just sign the damn ball and give it to the sponsor. Big deal.
Well, there you go. Well,
it's
okay,
ruined.
You actually led into the topic of the direction I'm headed. BYU recently hired, so their basketball coach left and went to Kentucky, which is his alma mater, right? And he took one of our best recruits with him and one of our best players with him. The recruit was a kid coming off of a mission, hadn't played college ball yet, but he was one of our highest recruits ever. And then our best player from last year transferred to Kentucky with the coach, right? So we went and hired an assistant coach out of the NBA who is a highly regarded assistant coach, and this NIL thing has blown up because the number one player in the United States, high school player in the United States of America, is a kid that plays in a little
Hurricane, Utah,
almost basketball school down here in Hurricane, Utah, called Utah Prep Academy. And Hurricane, if you're not from here, Hurricane is a suburb of St. George.
Very small.
If St. George was big enough to have suburbs. But it's just basically right down here in St. George, and he's the number one player in the number one high school player in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
He has a 24/7 or Rivals.com or a couple of these places give ratings. He has a perfect 100 rating, which is rare, extremely rare. The only people that I've heard of that have ever had a perfect 100 rating, Tracy McGrady, who was a professional, and LeBron James out of high school.
Yeah.
And so this kid, now interestingly enough, BYU fans, there's a couple of BYU fans named Ryan Smith, who owns the Utah Jazz.
Oh, yeah.
And apparently, this kid's looking at BYU,
Well,
which
yeah.
would never have happened in the past, ever. Like, BYU's not for this kid. He's not of this predominant
This kid's going to be a
religion.
millionaire before he even plays in the NBA.
So somehow BYU has put together a package for him, which is thought to be between about $4.5 million for 1 year of college basketball.
Yeah.
He may not sign a contract that big when he signs in the NBA. Now, he will eventually, but his first contract might not be that big in the pros.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it is unbelievable to me how BYU, little old BYU, is able to come up with that kind of money. But we
No,
may get
not
the
me.
number.
No, that doesn't surprise me. No,
Well,
no.
it's all-
look at their
It's all
alumni.
because of Ryan Smith. And,
yeah, look at
and
their alumni. Like,
somebody commented that kid will never go to BYU because we don't have the money. And one of the things I learned about that is there are 5 billionaires
Yeah.
that live within 10 miles of campus that are BYU fans.
yeah, and probably alumni.
And alumni,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So it's crazy. It's basically buy a team now, right? It used to be, and that's why you see a lot of these coaches like Nick Saban and Urban Meyer getting out, because it used to be that you recruited kids,
well,
you built a program.
wait.
Hold on, just let me finish this thought. Otherwise, I'll lose it. You recruit kids, you build a program, right? And that's how you groom them, right? Well, anymore, it's you buy kids, you bring them in, buy them through NIL money, right? Bring them in, and then if they don't like it, if there's a backup that doesn't like that he's not getting playing time,
Oh, sure.
he enters the portal,
Right.
and the next year he's gone.
Right.
So you can literally have, where it used to be you had, I would say, let's call it 85 or 90% of the same kids in a 4-year block, maybe even up to 6 or 8.
Sure.
Now you're seeing you can have almost only 40% of those kids returning,
Right.
or 40% of that original nucleus returning for
Right.
4 and 8 and 6 years.
It's definitely going to kill team continuity for sure.
yeah.
But I have a different theory on that. This is why Nick Saban's no longer coaching. Is he's been doing this for years, paying players illegally, and now that everyone else can do it, he realizes his advantage is gone, and so he left.
You think?
That's what I think. I'm probably dead wrong, but I mean, come on. Would anyone be surprised that Alabama paid players before NIL? No one would be surprised about that.
We got to use allegedly.
Right.
Allegedly.
Now, I'm just saying no one would be surprised. I'm not saying it's happened. I'm just saying it wouldn't stun very many
Yeah.
people that
I love
some
this.
of the big schools were paying players under the table. Then people have been caught for doing it before.
Yeah.
Now you can do it legally. Now you can pay them legally.
Now it's all on the table.
In fact, the NCAA has ruled that there's supposedly $22 million that each school needs to distribute to their athletes that they have to distribute to them.
Yeah.
So you have to
crazy.
pay players now.
It's crazy. I love this because this is I feel like this is us. This is our life in recovery,
It's weird. Okay. Talk to me.
right?
I'm not getting any NIL money.
well, just
I don't
our
even get
interests,
paid for this podcast.
our
Are you kidding
interests,
me?
our the stuff we got going on, right? The things that we're into.
Sure.
Talk to me about you. You hit another milestone in
Yep.
your recovery.
21 years clean and sober.
21 years.
Yep.
So
Streaking towards 22 now.
I also
but
hit 10
don't-
over the
Don't
summer.
know if I'm going to make it, but
I also hit 10 over the summer.
congrats. That's
Give
a
our
big-
listeners some
big one.
insight on like what do you do today for maintenance? Because you're at 21, I'm at 10. I feel like we're definitely in the maintenance phase.
For
What does your
sure.
maintenance
Yeah,
look like?
it's-
What do you have to do to keep your recovery?
Yeah, it's way different than what I first started doing, for sure, right? Because I went to 90 meetings in 90 days. I don't go to 90 meetings in a year anymore, frankly. I'm not saying that's always a great idea. I still go to some meetings. I just don't go to even close to what I used to go to.
Yeah.
And I go for different reasons. I used to go to see if I could find somebody that looked like he had something that I wanted. And I feel like I sort of need to be that person now. I need to show up and look like I have something that maybe someone else would want. Like, I go to see the newcomer walk through the door and realize I'm 2 dumb decisions away from being that guy again, and maybe even 1 dumb decision, right? I used to go to see the old timers and say, how do I get to what he's got? And
Now you are an old timer.
I'm an old timer, and frankly, it's just like everybody said. It's one day at a time, and I've been able to figure out how not to do it every single day. And I'm not kidding when I say I don't know if I'm going to make it next year. I do know I'm going to make it today. I'm going to bed tonight, and between now and then, I'm not going to put any stuff in my body that would harm my ability to stay clean and sober. So it's just become just a lifestyle, and it's just so easy anymore.
And I feel like
I
that's
have a
kind of what it
morning routine,
becomes.
and I have things that I do on purpose, and I touch base with people in my life that I need to touch base with, and I have a sponsor. We still talk. We don't talk even nearly as much as we used to because I don't feel like I need to talk to him every day necessarily, but I did at one point.
Sure. Yeah. And if it's working for you, just keep working it.
Yeah. I actually don't sponsor people. Probably not cool, but my job every day. I talk to people every day, and so I just feel like I don't know how I would separate that very well. So I haven't really sponsored very many people in my days, but I talk to my sponsor.
Yeah.
So how about you?
Well, I was gonna
10
say,
years. How'd you get to 10 years?
so when I hit 10, I kind of had this like thought, right? Similar to you, how I got to 10. I've shared when I hit milestones in the past. Today, my recovery looks like when I need to hit a meeting, I hit a meeting. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm way more open to like different types of meetings than I was in the past. I came up in AA, had a sponsor, right? Did the whole deal, had a home group. And for a while, I really needed that structure. I needed that support. I needed that routine. I moved to Southern Utah. COVID happened. We weren't meeting in person. Sure. And I kind of went through, it kind of freaked me out because I'm like, I need to hit him, right? Like this has been a big part of my life. And then like, I was kind of like, okay, I'm still okay. And I still have a sponsor. I still talk to my sponsor, right? Like, so today I feel like I'm a lot more open to different paths like Dharma and SMART and some of these other ones.
Sure.
And if I need to hit a meeting, I'll hit a meeting. I found though that I have a support group that's outside of just the rooms too.
Sure.
Like if I need to call some people and have some private conversations, like I have that list of people that I can contact. I also feel like at 10 years, you've worked yourself out of some of those social circles, or at least I have worked myself out of some of those social circles. Like my wife, Mandy's not going to be like, hey, let's go get a bag of heroin.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Or even, hey, let's go get a beer.
Right. Yeah. So today, I think a lot of my recovery, like you, I work in this field. I still hit meetings. I'm not too good for that, but it's like routine for me. And I've talked about that before.
Right.
Like I can tell you what I'm going to be doing, starting at 5 a.m, 5 days a week.
Right.
My weekends, I kind of, catch up, get ready for the next week. And it's just one day at a time doing my routine. The things that kept me sober the day before is probably going to be the thing that keeps me sober tomorrow.
Sure.
I was going to ask you though, because when I hit 10, I think I'm a little bit over counting because
Sure.
I was hearing the definition of and I ask guests that come on to share their story now, like, what does recovery mean to you? Because I had this realization when I hit 10, as I'm looking at the clients that I get to work with and serve, they're not in recovery. In my opinion, they're in discovery.
Right.
Right. And to me, like, okay, you can say, Jared, you're just splitting hairs on this, but
Sure.
but really recovery to me means I have a life that's different.
Right.
I've returned back to wholeness.
Right.
I wouldn't say my first year and a half that I was actually in recovery.
Oh,
Like I was abstinent, right?
for sure.
But I was still discovering a lot about myself. I was still discovering the things that were going to make me whole again, that were going to put me on the path that I'm on now.
Sure.
Does that make sense? I know
Yeah.
I'm getting real deep and philosophical here.
Listen, let's look at some of the activities. On Fridays, you play golf.
With a group
But
of
who
dudes.
do you play golf with?
Yeah,
You
great
play
point.
golf with recovery people, right? I got the same thing. On Mondays, I play. In fact, this reminds me of something I want to say. But on Mondays, I play with a group of people in recovery. And the reason is not because I feel like I need to hang out with people in recovery necessarily, but it's just we have so much in common.
Yeah, that's your people.
Like that's the people now, right? So I play with at least 2 other guys that are in recovery, and many weeks it's 3 other guys that are in recovery. The other guy's not ever struggled with drugs or alcohol. So, but this reminds me. By the way, I want to say this: we've had a friend of mine on this podcast a couple times, Cy Hershey,
Yeah.
who's one of the guys I play golf with every Monday. Cy is currently in the ICU on a ventilator. He had a terrible reaction to a medication that he was being given, and he's really struggling. I'm really worried that he makes it, frankly. So he's been a good friend of the podcast, and
Thoughts and prayers go out to
yeah,
Simon's
he
family.
had a reaction called Stevens-Johnson syndrome, which happens based on there's one certain medication, lamotrigine or Lamictal, that can cause that, and he had that reaction. I've given that medication to hundreds of people and never really seen a full-blown reaction, but man, he's hanging on, frankly.
Yeah,
So
it's tough.
our prayers, if you got some prayers, pray for Cy Hershey, because he needs some prayers right now, and his family does too.
Yeah, it's tough.
But these are, I can tell you this: no matter what happens, I'm gonna not drink or drug over it. I can assure you of that.
Do you find yourself, because the field that we work in, you hear about a lot of this stuff, and I don't know if this is right or wrong, but it's my truth, so I'm going to share it. I almost find myself being very selective on who I let into my support group,
Sure.
because number one, not everybody respects anonymity, and I just know that, right? Like, I'm not going to be in denial and be like, oh no, everybody's perfect about that. So number one, I try to avoid the drama and the gossip circles.
Sure.
Number two, I deal with death, overdose, and suicides and tragedies
Sure.
more than most people probably ever will, because of the line of work I work in.
No question. You're
So
going to
when-
have patients die. You're going to have friends die.
So when I'm picking my support group, I want to feel like I can really rely on. I don't want to get a phone call and hear that one of my real good friends is, not that this was anything to do with him relapsing, right?
No, it wasn't.
But we already have enough of that in our field that, yeah, I'm a little picky choosy,
Sure.
because like it's, and one of my triggers is grief and loss, right? Loss of my dad, loss of my brother. So
Sure. It's a very common trigger.
that's why I'm kind of like, I live in the gray.
It's always that. That's always been a funky trigger to me, because you'll have a friend overdose and die, and you've probably had some, and I have too.
My brother.
Right.
And I went out over it.
But
Makes zero sense.
Right. There's the thing that really is baffling to me is you go to a funeral of a guy who died from a heroin overdose, and leaving the funeral, your first thought is, I got to get some heroin.
And that's why it's a
It is
disease
such
of the
a
mind.
weird disease,
Because it
isn't
makes no logical sense.
I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go do what that guy did, and I just saw him laying in a coffin.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
One of the things I always tell people is don't try to apply logic to addiction, because it's not logical at all. It's completely and 100% illogical, unless you understand what happens in the brain.
I think one of the big turning points for me on the same thread about recovery is I went through a state program, right? And MRT was a big part of that. In MRT, they talk about how happiness is a byproduct of your choices.
Tell our listeners, what MRT is.
Moral recognition therapy, right? It's
Thank you.
basically making better choices and increasing your morals and values. And so when I heard happiness is a byproduct of the choices that you make, that was profound for me, right? And some of the stuff that we did in there. So anyways, I think about that still to this day, and that's part of why I hit 10, is because I recognize, like, this is a disease of choice. I'm not going to walk down the road, fall down, and my disease is going to kick in.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Sure. Absolutely.
So that's one of the things I feel like that stuck with me long term. Playing the tape through, that stuck with me long term. That's helped me get
Absolutely.
10 years.
Playing the tape through has been critical for me as well.
Yeah.
Like, I've told you this. I know I could use morphine today and get away with it, but if I play the tape a little bit longer, if I get away with it, I'm going to use it again.
For sure.
And if I get away with that, I'm going to use it again. And then I don't stop until the end of the tape where the DEA guys knock on my door and say, hey, we'd like to search your house.
Yep. We got about a minute and a half here left. What do we want to do? We're kind of lighting this thing back up.
Yeah.
We're still going to keep guests. That's a staple.
Sure. Love guests.
Is there any topics
love
that you...
topics. Yeah, I mean, there's some topics.
I like when me and you do topics.
Upcoming that I think we want to explore a little bit. And, you know, there's some really interesting and sort of fascinating research on trying to develop MAT, medically assisted treatment, for other things.
Okay.
We really have MAT for opiates. There's no MAT for benzos. There's no MAT for
meth
or
amphetamines,
cocaine,
yeah.
or I mean, there's no MAT for any.
So
of
you
that
got some
stuff.
medical
And
stuff
so,
coming for us.
Yeah, there's some stuff coming down the pike. They're trying to develop a vaccine for cocaine and some things like that. So that could be fun topics.
That's right in your playbook.
Yeah.
Coming out of my playbook, there's some modality stuff that I would love to talk about too, right?
Absolutely.
Like, there's this ego state theory that I'm getting real big into, working with different parts of our personalities. And it's very similar to IFS, but it's also a little bit different in some ways too, that I've been really digging. And maybe even the MRT that we talked about, moral recognition therapy.
Sure. Absolutely.
Because the thing I like about that is it's so basic. It's just like, be honest.
Yeah.
Develop some trust.
Yeah.
Right? I know. We're running short on time. This has been fun, Doc.
Are about there. It's good to be back in studio. Kick it back up. Anyway, thanks for listening today.
You're going down tomorrow.
Episode number
153.
53. We do recover with Jared Miller, and we'll be back next week or the week after.
Stay tuned. I will post our score sheets on social media.
Thank you for joining us today on We Do Recover with Jared Miller.
Help us spread our message of hope. Like, comment, and share.
If you have any topics or ideas for future shows, please share that on our Facebook page.
That Facebook page is We Do Recover with Jared Miller. If you or a loved one needs help, please reach out to us. Again, thank you for listening.
Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center, Rise Up Subs, and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast do not reflect those of its sponsors. This has been a production from A Podcast Studio.